If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that over the last year, the conflict in Ukraine has become even more dystopian and hellish. And leaked footage from Ukrainian drones shows just what I am talking about. We're going to be breaking down the footage, and we are going to be asking the questions, is this a look at the future of warfare? Let's get right into it. Now, I want to point two critical pieces of information out, particularly for YouTube and their censors. YouTube doesn't allow anything resembling combat footage. All of these pictures cut off before any destruction or harm is shown. And there's no verification that this has resulted in any harm. So please, please don't demonetize me. And let's just get into it. Now, what are these drones? These are first-person view drones. And what these are, again, if you haven't been paying attention to the war in the last maybe 6 months, these have become ubiquitous on the battlefield. What they are, they fly low. They have these very, very flat angles of attack, right? They attack almost level. They'll drop in, level off with the target, and then fly into the target and then detonate. So they are one-way drones, right? They have other names, but you can infer that YouTube won't let me say them. So we're going to call them one-way drones. But they're sometimes called FPV or first-person view drones because that's how they're guided in. Just like the first-person view of a video game, they fly in and make contact with their target. You can actually see this is the interface that looks very similar to not just an aircraft, but also something you would see in like a flight simulator. And so these are from Ukrainian forces, actually, I think a Ukrainian National Guard, and they are attacking a Russian convoy. Now, I want to make a couple of detailed observations here. You notice these buildings, they're all intact. And what that tells me is that this is not near the front lines, right? Because in this war, the front lines have been very static for a number of months, and they've changed minimally, and towns that are intact are ones that haven't been basically destroyed with artillery shells or rockets. But you can see these drones are operating in and around this region. Okay, I really need to turn this down. You guys don't need this. Actually, I can't have this music. It's copyrighted. Okay, so look, observe this first drone. You notice how it begins to look pretty staticky as it approaches, gets closer to this Russian vehicle. This is Russian electronic warfare in action, I believe. I think these vehicles are equipped with a basic type of jamming technology that will reduce the signal quality going to the drone, but I think it's insufficient, and we'll see why in a second. So you can see it lines up with the Russian MRAP. This is a mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle, very similar, almost like a clone of a American MATV or American MRAPs, even down to the protected turret. So it lines up, and you can see here, right? You notice the attack vector, very low, but you notice what else? The driver appears not to even notice the drone because they're not really that big. They carry a relatively small explosive, and what makes them dangerous is not the size of the explosive. It's the fact that they can target to this level of precision, right? In the 90s, a precision missile would be able to hit a building, right? Now, this can target the windshield, the hood. It can target a specific component of a vehicle. So you see there, right? It's hit the trailing vehicle of this convoy. And you can see here is another one overhead. And look again at this sort of overarching view. This is not a frontline area. This is a rear area of the battlefield. And so this Russian convoy, they think they're not in the fight. They think they're going to the fight. They don't even realize that they're already under target. And you can see looks like a logistics convoy, right? Here is a Russian vehicle that is what they call a KAMAZ, or a logistics truck. So it could be loaded with food, ammunition, even troops in the back. And this is an MRAP likely doing convoy escorts. And so you can see this vehicle also targeted again. You notice the drones are going after these combat vehicles. They're not really going after these logistics vehicles, which I find sort of interesting. What that says to me is that the Ukrainians likely view these vehicles as a greater operational threat than a simple logistics truck, which is probably fair because these are armored and armed, whereas this is just a truck. So again, you notice here's another drone, same town. So just imagine you're a Russian trooper here. You maybe think you have a behind the lines job or you're just a truck driver. But you're under constant threat, constant attack from an enemy who could be hundreds of miles away, right? These guys are operating these drones and simply hovering, looking for Russian convoys, Russian vehicles, and stopping them from ever even getting to the battlefield. And, you know, history is not without a sense of irony because the U.S. military, right, believed that in the 90s and early 2000s that there would be no more front lines, that the ideas of the brutal trench warfare of the World War I era was over, and that it would be replaced with an asymmetric sort of non-state conflict. And what happened instead is that you apparently got the worst of both worlds. You have the worst that the Russians are experiencing, the worst of Iraq and Afghanistan, where there is no front line, every soldier is a target, and you could find an IED or an explosive on any road, on any day, at any point. Right. So it took tremendous energy and effort to be prepared for that contingency. You have that hellish experience. Then you combine it with the brutality of the First World War, trenches, no man's land, constant artillery bombardment. It's like taking the most horrible aspects of all wars and like mashing them together into this conflict, right? And that's what you have when you have a technology like this, these ultra precise attack drones that are constantly buzzing around the battlefield. And you also have old school tech like artillery shells and tanks that are negated by other pieces of tech. Again, these drones, you see them, they're going to target tanks. So tanks that would normally create big, bold breakthroughs in the battlefield and prevent the World War I style stalemate, they're being destroyed before they even get to the battlefield, many of them. Right? Watch as this drone targets this Russian armored vehicle. And again, this is an armored vehicle that might have been able to help create a breakthrough in lines. It might be earmarked for a larger attack on a position. And instead, again, look at the losses they've taken before they even get to the front line. Right, you can see it's setting its attack pattern, dropping, and taking it out, right? So guys, I want you to take away from this a key thing is that technology is moving in weird, scary directions. Remember now, if you have these front lines, the drones right now require an operator, but in the future, they may not. And the drones already have a level of autonomy, right? A basic AI system or a basic machine learning system keeps them stable in flight, keeps them navigating, but it's only going to get more complex. And the drones are going to get more dangerous. They're going to get more lethal. They're going to get faster. Already, again, if you showed this footage to a Ukrainian or Russian soldier 18 months ago, they would think that it was science fiction, but instead it is a reality, just 18 months. Can you imagine what the next 18 will bring? Anyway, guys, if you're interested in seeing uncensored combat footage that YouTube won't let me show you, it is on my premium site, combatvetnews.com. This is, of course, where I have all the viral combat footage totally uncensored. And because I make war content, I don't get that many sponsors and I don't really have that good of ad revenue. So I depend on you guys for support. So if you want to become a specialist, colonel, lieutenant, or colonel tier, they all come with perks, but anyone will get you access to that members only content. And again, it's twice a week, the most viral videos, zero censorship, deep dive analysis. And I appreciate it. The link's in the description. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.